So a lot of you guys watch my rant videos and you kind of ask for sort of more like long form things because my rants are only usually like sort of 3 to 5 minutes longish, some are longer, some are shorter, but they're sort of more like edited together and like meant to be kind of more funny and stuff. A lot of you guys ask for some more like long form kind of stuff, just talking about things, how I feel about certain things within the game, and I'm just going to play a game of solo here. It's a King Arthur mirror match, so it should be pretty even. I don't know why this guy has a mana potion. But yeah, I'm just going to be playing, not really talking too much about my gameplay, and not really focusing on it too much, but I'm going to be talking about matchmaking today within Smite. So yeah, like I said, not going to be too much editing, not going to be talking about my gameplay too much, but I'm just going to be talking about how I feel about matchmaking, why it is bad, because it is bad, let's just get that out of the way, and how it can be improved, and how, like, I think it is, because it's not as bad as a lot of people say it is, but it is pretty bad a lot of the time. For me, I have like a decent experience of matchmaking. Mine's probably quite skewed because I actually seem to have decent matchmaking in Smite. Nowhere near as bad as what a lot of people like complain about. Their jungler's doing totem for some reason. Never seen that before. But yeah, matchmaking it's mostly because matchmaking is inconsistent. It's not necessarily bad all the time. It's just that it's inconsistent. Like, some games are really, really bad with matchmaking. Sometimes it just like absolutely potatoes and puts like level 40 people on a team with like me, for example. I'm like level 158 or something last time I checked. And it's those moments that a lot of people complain about in matchmaking, and it makes sense because we're human beings. We remember negative things a lot more than we remember positive things, so when we get a really good match, we don't really see that in the same way that we see a really bad match. This guy's probably dead. But like we get the there we go. We take the losses a lot more seriously than we take the wins. Like, if you get a really bad game with like some level 40s in your game and stuff like that, when like you're as high level as I am, that really sticks in your mind compared to a game that was like really even and you enjoyed it a lot. That's just how human beings work. That's basic psychology. I'm probably gonna just get Totem back here for Glad Shield. But yeah, a lot of different factors go into matchmaking, and that's why like it's so hard to actually get it correct. It's not just a matter of like, or tweak the algorithm and fix matchmaking in air quotes, because a lot of different things go into it. I have Glad Shield here and he doesn't. He also still has a mana potion, so this lane should be pretty free. But yeah, a lot of factors go into it. Like, player level is considered. A lot of people think like player level is like a big determinant for who should be a big determinant for who's match made with you, but it ultimately doesn't matter as much as MMR. Like, a lot of people are complaining that, like, oh, I've got this level 80 in my game when I'm level 140, and sometimes that is relevant because this guy should not be fighting me. I have Glad Shield. Sometimes it is relevant when things like that happen because generally, lower level players will be less skilled than higher level players, but that's not always the case. Sometimes, like, a lot of level 80 players that I've seen that play a lot of Conquest are way better than, like, some arena mains that are level 150. Like, in terms of Conquest skill, obviously. Like, if you have someone who's only played Arena for their entire Smite career and they're like level 150 or something and they try their first game of Conquest, they're obviously going to be a lot worse than a player that is like level 80 but has played mostly Conquest. So like, player level's not really a great way of determining like player skill, especially in Conquest, because there are other game modes in Smite. People can have playtime in other modes and be high account level while not actually being very good at Conquest. And if that wasn't clear, for this video I'm going to be mostly talking about matchmaking in Conquest because, one, I don't really play other modes anymore. I play a vast majority of Conquest, like 99% Conquest now. So it's not really that relevant to me. And also, matchmaking in like casual game modes like Clash and stuff like that doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, player skill is the factor that should be taken into account the most. Like, obviously the MMR system isn't always accurate, but MMR should be the determining factor in terms of matches. I have heard from Hi-Rez that player level is really taken into account only if you're below level 30. Apparently, sub-level 30 players can never be matched with post-level 30 players unless there's literally no other sub-level 30 players to actually match them with. Okay, this guy has shield now, so I'm not really looking to fight because I'm kind of low. But yeah, the only time a sub-level 30 player should be matched in with post-level 30 players is if no other sub-level 30 players are actually in the queue. Otherwise, it will make a game of sub-level 30 players to prevent just, like, you know, new players that are only, like, level 50 and getting matched with absolute gods if there's low queue population. Also, a big point about matchmaking is that it doesn't really work on an individual basis. Like, it's not going to try and get, like, 10 players that are all of equal skill or equal MMR. It more so goes for like equal teams. So, and that can lead to like some teams that just have like one absolute superhero player. I should probably use my ultimate here. Teams that have like one ultimate super player and then like a bunch of trash players versus like a fairly balanced team. This guy... Raven's trying to gank him. Yeah, let's fire this blue. Sometimes you can get players that are just like absolute gods on their team with like 4 like meh players, and they'll essentially be the superhero of the team. That's a free kill. Oh no, not quite a free kill. I may have killed myself here. I've definitely killed myself here. That's fine. I went a bit too deep for that. I thought I could get the Pele kill and get out, but yeah, what I was talking about with like the one superhero player or the 4 plebs versus like 5 decent players. Sometimes with matchmaking, it aims to get the MMR like even. So, for example, you might have 2 teams that have like 2,000 MMR average on the team, and oh, what am I doing? I didn't buy boots. So you'll have like 2 teams that have like 2,000 MMR average, but then you might have like one team that has like a bunch of 1,500 MMR players and one 2,500 player, and it will average out to 2,000. And then you also have one team that have like a team of 5 2,000 MMR players that are all consistent. So sometimes you end up with games where like it feels like you're the only one doing anything on your team, and that is because sometimes it tries to equalize the teams by giving like the really good player that's queuing. If there's like only one really good player queuing, it will give them the worst teammates of the lobby. That's not to say matchmaking deliberately gives you bad teammates to make you feed or anything. It's more so if you're the only good player queuing. Not gonna bother fighting that. If you're the only like really good player queuing, it'll try and give you some like less than average players for the lobby to like kind of compensate for that, because if it just puts you on a team with a bunch of really good players and the enemy team also have some decent players, you're just gonna win that lobby because you'll be able to carry it and it'll be unfair for the enemy team. But yeah, bad games exist, but it's not necessarily always on the matchmaker. Like, sometimes players just play badly. Like, I've had games where, like, I'm a really good player, I'm, like, Masters, like, Division, but sometimes I just play like an absolute plat. And that happens to everyone. So, like, sometimes a game that is theoretically even by matchmaking standards, like, the MMRs are even, the players, like, are performing very similarly. Jungler's on totem again. Sometimes, like, those games can happen, but some of the players just play really badly. Like, some of the Masters players on some teams play like plats, and some of the plat players play like diamonds. Like, sometimes people play above their MMR. This guy's dead. She's diving? You should not be diving. Oh, I suck. Maybe Raven can get it. Yeah. But yeah, those bad players can sometimes skew the game, so people think like, oh, this guy's an absolute feeder, he should not be in my game, when actually he should be in your game, he just had a bad time. Like, some people have bad games. Also, another really important factor here is that some people think that like a good matchmaking system means they'll win every game. That's obviously just not true. On average across the entire player base, of course everyone has a 50% win rate. Like, not everyone has a 50% win rate, I mean, but there will be a 50% win rate across every single player, because obviously 5 people win, 5 people lose in terms of conquest matches. But the game doesn't deliberately try and like give you terrible teammates to keep you at a 50% win rate. I hear a lot of people saying this, and it's just simply not true. If you have an above 50% win rate, the game will attempt to put you in like higher level games to effectively drop your win rate, because they'll put you in higher level games, and in theory you will lose more if you're in higher level games as you're in lower level games. But it's not deliberately giving you bad teammates to make you feed, it's more so just like it'll put you in higher level games, which will make you lose more because obviously you're getting higher in the skill cap. And then eventually you'll get to where you should be, and if you are at where you should be at a 50% win rate. If you have a higher than 50% win rate, you're probably lower than you should be, and if you have a lower than 50% win rate, you should probably be lower than you are. That's just the hard truth of it. Also, casual and ranked MMR are separate, so like, in cases where like it's someone's first game in ranked, I'm just gonna destroy these wards. In cases where it's someone's first game in ranked, like, they may have played a lot of casual games and they might be extremely good at conquest, but it's their first game of ranked ever, and so they get put in with like silvers because they're in their qualifying games and they've never played ranked before, so the system has like no idea where they should be. Because when you start a game, when you start a split, even in qualifying games, it takes your previous ranks into account. So like, I'm Masters currently, so the next split of this season, I'll be starting in like a fairly high ranked qualifier games, like probably Diamond or Masters ranked qualifying games. And obviously if I do reasonably well in those, like if I go 5-5, it'll probably put me in like Diamond matchmaking division. If I do better than that, I might even start with Masters matchmaking division. If that's even possible, I'm not entirely sure. But when there's no like past matchmaking data to account for, it'll just essentially have no idea where to put you, and it'll put you in bad games. And then obviously, if that player that's really good at casual conquest, but it's their first time playing ranked, if that player queues into ranked and ends up just like absolutely stomping everyone, then their MMR will climb really fast. Like if it's someone's first time in ranked, their MMR like confidence, like the system's confidence in them is extremely low. So if they're winning like every single game, it's gonna very quickly boost them up. But if someone that has like really high MMR confidence, like me, that's played a lot of ranked, I will like have less fluctuation. So if I win a lot of games, I'll gain less MMR, but also if I lose a lot of my qualifying games, I'll lose less. Also, another thing that can mess with matchmaking is that some people are just one tricks. Like I've seen a lot of players that do extremely well on one god in ranked, but if they don't get that god, they kind of feed their brains out. So like sometimes a player that would normally like absolutely carry if they got their main god, but if like it gets banned or it gets taken, or if they're just playing an off-roll pick, they'll absolutely feed their brains out, and it seems like they're a lot worse than they are, but if they're on their like primary god, it seems like they're a lot better than they are. So sometimes that can mess with matchmaking as well. Like the system doesn't really account for which god you're playing, it just accounts for like your overall win rate in like the system. So if you're playing like, for example, if I play a really good King Arthur, if I'm playing King Arthur, the system has no idea that I'm actually playing King Arthur. It just knows that I like won that game, for instance. Whereas like if I'm playing, what's the god I'm really bad at? I guess I'm not very good at Nike, for example. If I'm playing Nike, the system doesn't account for the fact that I'm playing Nike and that I'm bad with her. The system just essentially takes it as a normal game, and if I lose, then I lose some MMR. It doesn't really account for that. I can get this with Blink if he stays. Got it. That's why I like Blink on King Arthur. Also, with matchmaking, it tends to be worse at the extremities, so if you're like bronze or if you're masters, the matchmaking will tend to be worse than if you're like a gold player, for example, because Smite's matchmaking system aims for like a bell curve where the higher populations will be in like the middle ranks, so like gold and platinum will have a lot higher populations than bronze and masters. So if you're on the extremities, like me for example, where I play in masters most of the time, the matchmaking should be worse than if you're playing in gold because there's less people to choose from. Whereas like other MOBAs have like their entire population in like the main 5v5 game mode, like League I think pretty much just has the one game mode plus ARAM, and I think Dota does only have one game mode. So like things like that, the population isn't really divided too much, whereas the population of Smite is divided by like, I think it's 8 regional servers or something like that. Like crossplay helps because it used to be divided between like a bunch of different platforms as well, which is really not what you want to see. But with crossplay, it should have helped matchmaking a lot in like the casual modes. Oh, I should have killed the Pele there. But yeah, crossplay helped a lot because it removed like the regional, not the regional, sorry, the platform-based like limitations with players, because there's now a lot more players available for matchmaking, especially in casual modes where crossplay is enabled. But there's still like 8 different regional servers that you split among, and then also I think it's 7 or 8 different game modes. I think it's like 7 casual game modes and 3 ranked game modes, so that's 10 game modes overall that you like split between. So between 8 regional servers and 10 game modes, that's 80 different queues. So like, for example, if the Smite population at any one time was 100,000 players, you've got to divide that by 80 and you end up with like just over 1,000 players in each queue. Of course, that's not accurate because some queues are more popular than others, like Conquest and Arena and Joust, for example, are much more popular than queues like Siege. But in general, the population is split among game modes, and you can't really account for that. Like, there's not much you can do about that because you can't combine regional servers because ping will be horrible, and you can't combine game modes because they're different game modes and people have different interests. That's also why we changed to count down queues from count up queues. With count up queues, it would just like wait until it found you like a game that was passable by matchmaking standards. Oh, it got that. Nice. It would just wait until it found you a game that was like passable by matchmaking standards, but perhaps not great, and then would put you in that game. Whereas with count down queues, you have like a lot more time in the queue to wait for people. Like, for example, Conquest has like a 3-minute queue, so you'll have a bunch of people that will queue in those 3 minutes, and then the matchmaker will have like a lot more people to work with to make more fair games, rather than just making them as it gets people. So another very significant factor in terms of matchmaking is Smurfs. Smurfs actually have a lot of like impacts. Like a lot of the games that people complain about that are really bad might have involved Smurfs. So for those that don't know, Smurfs are essentially people's second accounts that they use to play against low-level players. Well, not always to play against low-level players. Some Smurfs are used to like genuinely have like a second account or like a second chance at the grind because people have like already like high elo, for example, but they want to play with like some kind of like elo reset where they can like truly judge their skill. But a lot of Smurfs are just created so that people can stomp new players, and one, that's not very healthy for the game. Get me out of here. one, that's not very healthy for the game, but two, it creates a lot of bad matchmaking. Because on a Smurf, it's a really high MMR player playing on a fresh account that has like no actual MMR. And that can cause problems because obviously if you're putting like, for me for example, if I made a Smurf and I was playing at like, let's say 1500 MMR in like gold or something in Conquest, I have 2400 MMR and I play in Masters, so if I'm playing in that game, I'm obviously going to stomp everyone that's in that game, so it's not really like ideal, but there's not much Hi-Rez can do about Smurfs. Like, I don't think they have a policy to ban Smurfs if they find them, but honestly, I'm not even sure if they should. It's kind of a complicated issue with Smurfs because they do cause a lot of damage to the game, but also a lot of people use them with like no malicious intent, and you don't really want to ban those people's Smurfs. But then how do you justify like who is Smurfing for like what intent and stuff? So it's kind of difficult to ban that sort of stuff. We're kind of losing this game, so I'm kind of trying to focus a little bit more on my actual gameplay, so I don't just throw the game for the team. So another big determining factor, like other than Smurfs, is that some people will queue as parties. So like, especially this matters in casuals, like a full 5-man pre-made of like communication with like full voice comms and stuff like that in casuals will probably beat a team of better players that are randoms with no communication. Like for example, a full team of gold players that are like fully communicated will probably beat a team of random plat players because they don't have full communication, and communication is really key in a team game like this. But sometimes that can mess with matchmaking. Like in ranked it's not as bad because they only allow duo queues. But in casuals sometimes you can get like full pre-mids that go against like a bunch of randoms. And I think the matchmaking system does actually like try and match pre-mids against pre-mids. Like I've seen a lot of games where like, you know, it's a 4-man pre-mid versus a 4-man pre-mid. So if there is pre-mids queuing that can be matched together, like they're of reasonable skill, then it'll probably happen. But for example, if you're the only pre-made queuing at your sort of skill level, it can also mess with things. Plus, a lot of parties that queue together are like friends that aren't necessarily at the same skill level. Like, I queue with a lot of my friends and we're all at varying skill levels. Some people are worse than me, some people are as good as me, some people are better than me that I queue with, so it kind of skews the matchmaking a lot because we're all going to be in the same game, like we're forced to be in the same game because we're a party, but in theory, the matchmaker would never actually put us in the same game because we're not of the same MMR. Also, a lot of people who complain about inconsistent matchmaking, like in ranked, for example, is because they don't really have a high match count, because obviously, like I said earlier, ranked and casual MMR are separate, so if someone plays a ton of games in casuals, like I have so many games in casuals that my matchmaking is really consistent because my MMR in casuals is like bang on where my skill would be because, or like bang on where the system thinks I should be because I have so many games in casuals. I have like probably about 5,000 games or something. That's completely ballpark off the top of my head, but like with that many games, the system has a really accurate rating of where you should be, but in ranked I have less games, but still enough to be even. But like, if I was queuing like one of my first ranked games, like I'd only played 10 ranked games or something, the system doesn't really know exactly where I should be. But as you play more games, the system gets more accurate on where you should be, and in theory you should get better matchmaking games because the system has a better idea of where you should be. Yeah, we can probably siege here. We have our Hunter. Oh, stunned him out of his dash. He got it back though. Yeah, this guy's tower. And like I said at the beginning of this video, it's sort of like the bad experiences with matchmaking really stick out in your mind, but overall, like, people complain that they get bad teammates every single game and the enemy team always gets the good teammates and it sucks, but that's just mathematically never going to be true. As long as the matchmaking system doesn't have some kind of vendetta against you, which I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I don't think matchmaking is sentient, I think it's just bad sometimes. But like, as long as the matchmaking doesn't have a vendetta against you, mathematically you will get like the same average teammates as your teammates get as long as you play enough games. It's like rolling a 6 on a dice or something. Like, if you're playing Monopoly or something, you might say, oh, I always get 1s, I never get 6s, but mathematically, it's a 1 in 6 chance. You'll always get as many 6s as your other, like, players, but, like, that has to be over a decent sample size. If you roll a dice 6 times, you probably won't get 1 of each number, but if you roll a dice, like, 100 times, you'll get much closer to that 1/6 chance. And it's kind of the same with matchmaking. If you played like 1,000 games of like matchmaking ranked conquest, you're probably going to have like on average acceptable teammates. But if you just play like 2 games and then rage quit because you got bad teammates... 1 second. We need to win this fight. Can't really get much off this, just get Gold Fury. But yeah, the more games you play, the more consistent it gets, and the more games you play, like, the more average your teammates will become, I guess. Like, sometimes you'll have really bad teammates, but sometimes you'll get the really good teammates. It averages out eventually just due to the laws of mathematics. Like, you may have a really bad loss streak of, like, terrible teammates, but then at some point, you'll regain those wins from good teammates. Like, you'd have to be incredibly unlucky to always get the bad teammates, and with the amount of people that complain about always getting bad teammates, it just can't be the case. Like, some people over-exaggerate it a lot, I think, and make matchmaking kind of seem worse than it is. Because of, like I said, like, we're all humans, and we take the bad experiences much harder than we take the good experiences. And yeah, a lot of people just kind of play like a few games of ranked and then just complain, oh, matchmaking shit, I'm never playing ranked again. It's like, you probably just got a little bit of an unlucky streak. If you actually got on the grind of ranked and played like, 50, 100 games, things will even out eventually. Can I get this guy? No, but I can force him out. I'm not sure we can end, actually. We don't really have minions. But to be honest, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say, and it looks like this game's kind of coming to an end. Like, that's pretty much all I have to say on matchmaking, but I'll just play out the rest of this game and just commentate over my gameplay, because this is actually a relatively close game, and we could lose this one, so I'll try and focus on my gameplay a little bit more. And just kind of finish off this game. But that's pretty much all I wanted to say, so if you were just here for, like, the overall matchmaking discussion, and you don't really care about watching the rest of the gameplay, then you can leave now, but for those who are sticking around, I'll play out the rest of this game and just kind of commentate over it. Holy shit, I just realized I have, like, 5,500 gold. Yeah, I should be paying more attention. When I'm talking about things like that and trying to, like, make a video, I really don't pay any attention to how I'm actually playing. I'm surprised I'm doing anything decent this game, but... yeah, I have a lot of gold to spend, so Mantle... plus my CDR at capped, so sell boots. Get the speed pot. That leaves me with 2,600. What can I get for that? I can't get Heartseeker, which is kind of what I want. Maybe more magical defense, because Raijin's kind of shredding me. Or Thebes. I probably don't have time to stack Thebes. Or Urchin. Genji's has CDR. Runic got nerfed. Maybe Runic's still good enough. And Sheila's pretty good against Raijin as well. I'll go for Sheila. I can also get a power pot with that. Alright, hopefully we can actually group up and end this game now. We probably could have ended this game a while ago if I was actually playing properly, but I wasn't really focusing too much on how I was actually playing. It's really difficult to commentate over gameplay and actually play well. Like, if I'm commentating about the gameplay, it's not too bad, but if I'm talking about other things, it distracts my focus from the actual game, and I play really badly. There's probably a lot of, like, opportunities that I've missed because I've just been commentating. Especially, like, having 5,000 gold in hand. Can I get this? Probably. Only Fury's spawning as well, we kind of want that. Yeah, just give up the tier 1 if they're going to siege that. We could probably defend tier 2. Actually, maybe not, because Chuck's in right. We might have to give up tier 2 as well if they're pushing. Okay, that's shooting all down. Yeah, let's just try and hold Phoenix, because Chuck's split pushing, so... Nice. Good kill. Raijin just dashed. We need to kill Raijin. He's so out of position. That's a kill, even if he beats. Maybe not. There we go. Another one there. Chase the Ramadan. Nice. Good shit. Oh, they surrendered. It was probably over, but like by the time we got to Titan, Pele would have been up. She maybe could have defended. I don't know. GG though. I probably played really badly that game. Like in the learning phase, I feel like I did alright, but I wasn't really rotating to team fights because I wasn't really paying attention to calls because I was discussing things. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, both like the matchmaking talk and that little bit at the end where I was actually kind of trying to play the game. If you want more of these sort of like long form things where I just kind of play a game and talk about something, I was thinking about doing one of these about like ranked in general or maybe talking about game modes and things like that. So if you enjoyed this, then let me know what other topics you want me to cover in this kind of format, like a lot more long form. And I can definitely get on that because these are relatively easy to make. It's just kind of me talking over a gameplay. So if you want to see more of these, I can definitely do that. But yeah, GG's, and I'll catch you guys in another video later on. Have a great day, stay safe, and peace out, you nerds.